Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Mark Isaac Potter Presents. We're visiting today with Frank Navarro, who is, as you're soon going to see, a very, very fascinating man, very deep thinker. He's written, I think it was 460 books, as far as I know, and 700 of them were on the bestseller list. So he's a great guy. I don't care what his neighbors are saying about him. It doesn't matter to me. All right, Frank, let's try to get into this. There's so much to tell. Do you want to say something about yourself as a person first, or would you rather not?
Well, I was a teacher for 40 years
Okay.
and and I have a unique career in teaching. I came to Mountain View. It was actually AWOL High at the time as a special day class teacher. I
Okay.
worked with severely learning disabled high school kids
Oh, that's beautiful. I have a
and
lot of disabilities, so I love working with people with disabilities.
and originally they had me on an off-campus classroom, and the
Okay.
following year they brought my class onto the campus, and I worked with these kids for 5 years, and then the district asked me to go into teaching special ed, what's called mainstream, and
Okay.
I taught world studies for 3 classes and 2 special ed classes. And
Okay.
several years after that, I became a advanced placement European history teacher. And I did that for a good 20 years.
Huh.
And and
Oh,
at that
fine.
time,
I forgot to put it on mute. I'm sorry. That's my mistake. I
and you
usually
said
remember, but I don't. Go ahead. Go
and
ahead.
at at the end of a good 20 years, I developed a course called Facing History, which was devoted to the Holocaust and genocide.
And
And
this
through
was in
that,
high school, huh?
in high school, yes,
It
at Mount.
seems like a pretty advanced stuff for high school, but
Yeah, well, the students were interested, and I was interested in teaching it. And I
okay.
went to Israel and studied for a month at Yad Vashem, the International Center for the Study of the Holocaust.
Okay.
And then I became a Mandel Fellow with the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum. And uh,
Wow. You're so accomplished. It's mind-boggling. We're going to have to do like 350 shows in order to. No, you're quite amazing. So anyway, a couple of things because this is show number one. I want to try to give the audience an umbrella, an overview of things we're going to be doing and talking about over the next 200,000 shows. Um, you have written a book. Just tell us a little about the book. Let's not get into the question. Can you, by the way, can you do more than one show today? Would that be okay?
sure, yes,
All right,
indeed.
because we got to do as many of these as we can. Uh, Give us just, is this your first bestseller book or how many books have you written? I don't remember now.
Well, I've written articles. I wrote
Okay.
for California Educator. I wrote a long piece for the magazine, and then I
Okay.
did some essays for the San Jose Mercury News. And,
Okay.
and this is my first book.
Okay. Now,
And
when the book come out? How's it doing so
the,
far?
the book came out about 6 weeks ago,
Okay.
and it's selling. Um,
Okay.
and
Good.
the title of the book is Trump, Hitler, and Me: A Teacher's Story.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it while the book focuses on Trump, it's also about how teachers responded to the coming of Trump's presidency in 2016. And
Oh,
that became the issue for the school district and the administration.
now,
And
what school district? One or all of them in the U.S. or what?
the only one where I was teaching was the Mount View Los Altos High School District. And
Okay.
there are two high schools in that district, Mountain View High and Los Altos High.
Okay.
And the
Which one?
admin,
Which one were you at?
pardon me,
Which of the two were you at?
I was at Mountain View High.
Okay, and did they both react in the way you're going to describe to us, or not?
For the most part, the teachers did. The
Okay.
students and parents had an entirely different reaction and
Huh.
responded.
Okay.
The
That's
I had a couple of several teachers tell me what. Make a long story short, and I'll try to get into the
well,
annotated
yeah,
version.
because we're trying to get an overview here at first, because I know there's going to be reams and reams of particular information coming up. So
So I started in September of 2016 doing a comparison of Trump and Hitler. Especially, I was looking at Trump's rhetoric, Hitler's rhetoric in 1932, 33 through the
right,
30s,
yeah,
where they were both from. And by that, I mean Trump, like Hitler, was outside the political system, had no experience running for
right.
office. And Hitler,
Hitler was a painter, wasn't he? At some point, he got rejected from some
yeah,
festival or something.
yeah, he was close to living on the streets and was an artist, and he was rejected from the Academy in Austria. And that's interesting because Hitler was not German; he was Austrian.
I never knew that. I haven't heard that. It's surprising that we haven't heard that more often.
Well, yeah, and when the war started in 1914, he actually joined the German army rather than the Austrian army. So
Oh,
I talk about those two instances where they're both outside the system. Um they and their rhetoric and and then the political economic system that was evolving for both of them. Hitler comes along at a time when Germany was facing economic destruction.
right.
First of all, they were hurt terribly by the Treaty of Versailles that imposed reparations on the Germans,
Okay.
and the government to pay that off uh, ran money and printed money out, and the Germans were experiencing great inflation, and then the depression hit in 1929, and Germany was hit early on and hit hard.
Okay.
Um, the Weimar Republic, the German democratic government was having great difficulty making the economic payments. Had received a great deal of anger as a result of Versailles and
Right.
and and the hyperinflation. And the other thing that affected Germans greatly was the demise of the monarchy. So Hitler comes along at a time when democracy seems to be not seems is actually failing the German population, and he steps in and argues, "I can save you. I can change this."
Huh.
And Trump is coming along at a time where the American middle class is feeling really under siege,
Right.
and
Right.
he is
Right.
coming and
Almost.
telling the Americans, the economy, I can change this, I can save the economy, I can turn it around. So
Yeah.
early on, I was making those analogies. I also early on talked about Hitler focusing on the Jews. which was a fairly typical political strategy at the time. The irony is, German Jews felt completely and totally integrated into German society. Jews had served in the army, they had served in the government, they were
Right.
teachers, they were doctors,
Right.
and I always asked my classes to speculate on how big the population of Jews were in Germany at the time, since Hitler blamed them for
Yeah.
most of their problems. And
Right.
it's an interesting number. Jews
Okay.
were no more than 2% of the entire population. And
Yeah.
of that 2%, only 1% was noticeably Jewish, devoutly Jewish.
Yeah.
If you would have asked a Jew in 1930 or 32 how he felt about Germany, he would have told you, "Look, I'm German. I fought in World
Yeah.
War One. I am
Yeah.
totally,
Yeah.
totally German."
And this
Yet,
is again something we don't hear much, so it's no wonder your book is becoming such a good success. I mean, you've got a lot of insights that I have not heard from other people. So
yeah, and the other comparison that I was that Trump didn't tend. He, in fact, Trump focused on the Muslim population in this country and the
mhm.
immigrants and how the immigrants were creating great problems in America. So Trump is focusing on immigrants, on Muslims, on Mexicans, and and blaming them for our great economic problems. And Hitler was doing the same thing with the Jewish population. Now
Okay.
that and so I worked those ideas through, and I spread it out over at least a couple of arguments, a couple of weeks, and with the intention, in fact, to go further with the coming of World War II and what that meant. And Trump, well, Hitler, when he takes power in January 33, he takes power with the democracy, with the intention of ending the democracy. And my belief is that, and we see it now, that Trump would use democracy to end democracy. And so that's sort of the long and short of it. Um,
Okay.
and the teachers in my department told me that they agreed with me, but it was just too touchy. I would never
Yeah.
touch it. Would never.
Okay. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that happened. Yeah, that's sounds right.
But
How
it's
long?
critical
Go ahead.
that we teach the truth. It's
Yeah.
critical that we go into this. It's a reflection of who we are.
Yeah.
Kids listened intently. They wanted to know, how did Hitler come to power? How is Trump coming to power? I mean, both of
Okay.
them were underestimated.
Now,
When
when were
Trump,
you? What you were? This was 2016 or what?
2016, yes,
Now Trump came into power what year the first time?
he took power in November 2016. And,
Okay. So, and
and
you were teaching this before he got in, after he won or something, or what
I
about?
started teaching it in September of 2016 when he was running. And,
Okay.
and
Okay.
what really got me to thinking about it was Trump encouraging violence at his rallies. There were demonstrators
Okay.
who came to his rallies, and Trump
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
"Stop those people."
Just like the brown shirts would incite violence. Yeah. Would incite
And
violence in Germany. I'm surprised the school district did let you do that. It seems rather open-minded of them, even though the teachers privately said, blah blah blah. It seems like you were allowed to teach it for a while at least, right?
well, I actually taught it throughout the year. What happened, I actually is the principal approached me in
Okay.
late October 2016
Yeah.
I have a parent who's called and is really upset with you for making the analogy. She
Right.
thinks it's totally inappropriate and that you shouldn't be doing it.
I
And I
believe it though. Yeah.
and I told them, bring the parent in and we can sit down and talk about it. I'll show
Yeah.
her exactly what I'm saying. I'm not saying anything uh, that I can't back up with data.
Right.
I can talk about their rhetoric. I can compare them. And he said, well, she doesn't want to talk to you. And I told him, well,
I
I can't.
believe that. I believe that too. Yeah.
And so then I told the principal, here's what we should do. I'll come in and sit down and show you what I've said. And he said, Frank, I'm too busy for that.
I'll be damned.
And I told him, well, I've got a better idea. In a week, I'm talking about Hitler in 1932, late, late October, as he was really looking that he may gain power. The Nazis had actually picked up some seats in the parliament, in the Reichstag, but they were nowhere near a majority.
Right. Right. Right.
Meant that Hitler was in no way, a shape, or form going to take power. He would need to put together a coalition. And
Yeah.
I told him, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that on Tuesday. And he said, I told you, I'm too busy.
Ah, that's. Hey, by the way, Frank, can you tilt the top of your laptop a little bit toward yourself, the opposite way? There,
How's
there
that?
you go. That's better. So we
And
can
I
see
told,
when you. That's good. So go ahead.
and he said, well, what I wish is I wish you wouldn't be making these comparisons. I wish you wouldn't do it.
Huh.
That's what there is to it.
But he didn't. Doesn't he have the authority to tell you what to teach or not?
Well, we have a curriculum, and my lectures with Trump and Hitler were consistent with the curriculum. I did in the spring a whole series of comparisons between Hitler and Napoleon, which was really fascinating. And I
Okay.
got that when I was in France several years ago from a historian,
Right.
a French historian, who
Okay.
gave like an hour and a half lecture comparing Hitler and Napoleon.
Oh.
But I told the principal, and I know he didn't like it.
Yeah.
Was be He said, I wish you wouldn't do it. And I
Yeah.
told him, I want to remind you who you're talking to. I'm a fellow Mandel Fellow with the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum.
Right.
I studied in Israel. I've written articles about this. I'm not prepared to drop it because you wish I wouldn't do it. And
Huh.
he said,
Okay.
well, okay. And, he
Huh.
walked away.
Okay.
But I again, I saw him a couple of days later and told him, why don't you come in? And he said, I'm too busy. And then 2 days after Trump was elected, he came to my room, told me that he wanted me to come out. And I had been giving a lecture about Voltaire, who I think is just marvelous. He was an
Okay.
enlightened
Okay.
philosopher. And Voltaire made an issue in his life of free speech. And I talked about that. But so the principal comes in and he looks at me and he points at me. And I couldn't help it. I said, excuse me. I told the class, I think the principal wants to talk to me.
Yeah, probably so.
And, and I said, maybe he has some questions about Voltaire, wouldn't you
Yeah,
say?
yeah, probably not. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we went outside and he said, you are to be in my office at lunch
Oh,
and make sure you're there. And you have the right to have a union representative with you if you choose.
huh.
And I
Okay.
said, really?
So they were going to do some disciplinary action, it
Yeah.
seems like.
And I told him, well, what is this about? Why would I need a union representative? And he
Yeah.
said, something, quote unquote, exact quote, something you said in class.
Oh,
And
boy.
he turned around and walked away. And
Yeah.
uh, on the way over, I contacted somebody in the union, a representative who came, and she was frightened out of her mind when she
Oh,
went into the meeting. And
yes.
the long and short of it, they accused, at first he said that a parent is upset with you again. And I said, listen, I've been here 40 years. I
Yeah.
gave the parent a chance to come in and talk, and we can talk about this. I mean,
Had you been in that school system 40 years?
40 years at that very school, at
Really?
Mount High School.
Good God.
Um,
I didn't
and
know that part either. Jesus.
yeah, I
Okay.
had
Huh.
I had taught economics, world studies, special ed, English, and facing history. And
Okay.
I had been a union representative and a negotiator for the teachers union for a good 15 years.
All right.
So,
So tell us about that meeting, if, or
well,
whatever you want to tell us next, I guess. But yeah.
well, the first thing they did, parents upset and said, okay, and he accused me of creating propaganda against Trump.
Oh, God help me. Well,
And
you know, it's that
I can
sounds like
back up
something
anything I said
Trumpers
about
would
Trump.
say.
You can
So
find, and then
yeah.
I said, and they asked me, and you made an issue with Trump and climate change. And I said, you're damn right I made an issue about it. Trump said it was a hoax perpetrated by the Chinese. Uh,
Right.
Climate change is a scientific fact. Tell
I
me you believe the scientists and not Trump. Come on, tell me. And they said, well, it's something that's up in the air. I said, it is not up in the
yeah.
air. What's the matter
Yeah.
with you two? And
It's amazing you guys had that kind of meeting with that kind of language in it. That's because you know the 51% of the country thinks Trump is right. That's why he won the election. So I mean, there's got to be plenty of people in Mountain View and Los Altos who think he's. I
there,
guess yesterday he declared himself king.
I know, I
Saw
know.
that. So we're
I
getting
think it's
close to
important
the
for
we're getting close
educators.
to the end. Not too close, but somewhat.
I
Uh,
think it's critical for educators to teach the truth because that's what kids need to hear.
But did you know what did they finally just stop your teaching position or what happened?
No, what happened? Well, after they told me I had to leave immediately,
Out of
and
the building, huh?
yeah, you have to go. And I told them I have to go back to my class and pick up my briefcase. I have my personal belongings. I'm
Right,
going.
right. Okay.
And when I got back to my class, they had a sub waiting for, with the students,
Okay.
and and I have terrific students. I've always had terrific. They're not perfect. They're
No,
people, but
no, I
boy,
understand.
they're open.
Right,
And when
right.
they came in, and several of them know or knew that I ride bikes about 60, 70 miles a week. And
Wow.
and it was the day before the Veterans Day holiday, and so they said, "Are you cutting out on us now to go bike riding?" And they were just
Oh,
laughing, and I
God
said,
bless.
"No, and here's why I'm leaving." And when I told them, they said, "Come on, that didn't happen. For
Oh,
real?"
really?
Yeah, and they didn't believe it, and I told them, "Be subtle. Casually turn to the back of the room, and on the other side of the wall at the window was the superintendent trying to listen to the conversation."
Oh, God help us.
And they all at the same time, "Oh," and as I told them, "I have to leave now," and as I left, these came out. Every student took their phone out and started sending messages,
Okay.
and
That's good.
and
No, that's better. That's a better, more supportive response than I would have thought would happen. So,
yeah. Well, I got home about 3 o'clock and went on a 30-mile bike ride. And when I came back at 7, the school newspaper was on had contacted me, and they wanted
okay.
the story. And then
Wow.
I gave them the story the long and short of it. And the next morning, the San Jose Mercury News called, followed
Okay.
by the Chronicle, by the New York Times, by the LA Times,
All right.
and that whole weekend, the BBC called, so the story went international.
Okay.
And on Sunday, the superintendent called. And so,
Can we? We're
yeah,
gonna need
I'll,
to.
I'll be quiet.
This is a good place to stop because that is a great teaser. I like
Okay.
it. So we're quickly running completely out of time. I'm
Okay.
gonna sign out, but then we're gonna log out because that's the way to make the two shows separate.
Okay.
And I'm gonna take a 5-minute break or so, and then we'll log back in. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
All right,
Okay. I'll
ladies and
log out.
gentlemen.
Let's
Wait, I
hopefully.
gotta let me do my sign out here. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Mark Isaac Potter Presents. We're visiting today with Frank Navarro, who I hold in high esteem. I don't know how much trouble that'll get me in, but you folks take care. We're going to do another show. This is show 1 of a long series. We'll do another show here in a few minutes, and I'll get them posted as fast as I can.
So
All right,
I'll
Frank.
close out.
Talk to you soon. Yeah. Let me end the